Now let's turn our attention to North Korea. The country had planned to launch a satellite by June 11. Why? To monitor US military activities. And it tried doing so, but failed. North Korea's first space satellite crashed into the sea. But while the satellite failed to do its job, it succeeded in one thing: creating panic. The launch sparked a false alarm in the South Korean capital of Seoul. Japan also issued a warning to its residents of Okinawa. There were air raid sirens blaring, emergency messages passing around. There was chaos and confusion as people tried to save their lives, only to be told 20 minutes later that there had been an error. Our next report tells you more about it. What you just heard were wailing air raid sirens in South Korea's Seoul and Japan's Okinawa. This was followed by mobile phone alerts. They called for evacuations, which is rare. All this happened on Wednesday morning. People awoke to the confusion. Residents were rattled. Reports say people were frantically running for cover. Some grabbed their children and hid. Others started making calls to their loved ones. Many were frantically dialing the emergency numbers. Some even went online to check what had happened, but internet was slow.
I was a little confused by the alert message this morning.
I thought it was an earthquake, but when I looked, it was a missile.
This panic and pandemonium went on for about 20 minutes, after which both Japan and South Korean governments clarified. There was no missile attack. In fact, it was a failed satellite launch by North Korea. Pyongyang had launched its first space satellite, only it was a failure, crashing into the West Sea of Korea, but it was successful in sparking a false alarm in South Korea and Japan, because both the countries were unsure about what had just happened, and they jumped to conclusions.
Today, an object that appears to be a ballistic missile was launched by North Korea.
However, both South Korea and Japan were completely wrong, and now they have apologized.
I apologize for causing confusion over Seoul City's emergency alert message on North Korea's space launch vehicle this morning. This emergency message could be a working level official's overreaction, but it was not a mistake. Our principle is to respond in a manner that can be seen as excessive, and there can be no compromise on safety.
Residents of both these countries live under constant threat, thanks to their neighbor, North Korea. North and South Korea are still technically at war, even though 7 decades have passed since the Korean War ended in an armistice. And now Pyongyang under Kim Jong-un is amping up its aggression, especially as it plans to expand its nuclear arsenal to apply pressure on both Washington and Seoul. But that being said, this latest move by North Korea has angered South Korea and Japan. Their citizens are upset too, not with Pyongyang, but their own governments.
How do they ensure that they can trust in their local authorities? And I feel like every time in this case, if we're talking about North Korea, every time that North Korea fires a missile of some sort, and there's possibility that it may either fly over Hokkaido or be landing within Japan's EEZ.
While people are justifiably angry over this false alarm, the threat is very real, because North Korea is clearly on a war path, and the war clouds over Japan and South Korea are looming large. And one day, they may actually rain fire.